The morning sunlight filtered softly through the blinds, casting warm stripes across my cluttered bedroom. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the plain, gray t-shirt and jeans lying on the floor. Today was supposed to be just another routine day, but an uneasy anticipation gnawed at me. My name is Alex, and for most of my life, I had lived quietly in a delicate balance, trying to maintain the normalcy expected of me while secretly nurturing a side of myself I rarely shared with anyone. It wasn't that I was ashamed of it. Crossdressing had always been a private joy, but shame and fear had a subtle way of creeping in, especially around people who didn't understand. I worked a standard office job, spending long hours typing reports and managing client calls, never revealing the spark of color and curiosity that existed behind my otherwise conventional life. I lived with Emma, my girlfriend, whose charm and confidence could light up any room. She didn't know the full extent of my secret, but she was kind and perceptive in ways that made me simultaneously feel safe and exposed. The thought of the salon visit later that day made my stomach twist with anticipation. Emma had insisted I come along to her appointment, supposedly for a quick trim and color touch-up for myself. I'd been hesitant at first. She had a playful streak, and I had learned over time that her good intentions sometimes came with unexpected consequences, but eventually, I had agreed. After all, it wasn't unusual for me to experiment with appearance in private. I glanced into the mirror and studied my reflection. My eyes, a muted shade of hazel, were framed by long lashes I had learned to accentuate with subtle mascara when Emma wasn't around. My hair, short and unassuming, could easily be styled into something more daring if needed. Standing there, I wondered, could a simple salon visit really change anything, or was I already walking on the edge of something that could upend my life entirely? Emma's voice called from the kitchen. "Alex, don't forget, we leave in 30 minutes. I don't want to be late." There was a playful lilt in her tone, a mixture of excitement and mischief. I sighed, grabbing my wallet and keys, and tried to steady my racing heart. The salon was just a 15-minute drive from our apartment, a cozy spot tucked between a bakery and a small bookstore. The interior smelled faintly of lavender and shampoo, and soft indie music played in the background. Emma's stylist greeted us warmly, but I could feel the tension behind her practiced smile. I wasn't there for a full treatment, just a subtle consultation, yet the atmosphere made my nerves jittery. As Emma chatted animatedly with her stylist about new color trends and haircut styles, I lingered in the corner, pretending to read a magazine. Every so often, my gaze would flicker toward the mirrors lining the walls, reflecting not just the clients in chairs but also me, standing, shifting, trying to look normal, trying not to betray the curiosity and excitement simmering inside. Then came the moment that would change everything. A stylist, young and cheerful, approached me. "Are you here for a trim too?" she asked. Her tone was casual, but her eyes twinkled with curiosity. Emma, ever the instigator, nudged me slightly. "Why not? Alex could use a little change." I froze, unsure whether to laugh nervously or protest. But before I could speak, she had already motioned me toward an empty chair. "Come on, let's make today fun." I hesitated. This wasn't the plan. I wasn't ready. Yet, somehow, I found myself sitting down, feeling the cool cape drape over my shoulders, the scent of hair products filling my nostrils. The stylist's hands were gentle as she ran her fingers through my hair, and despite my initial panic, a strange thrill began to surface. Emma leaned close, whispering with a sly smile, "Just trust me." The stylist began with a few snips, carefully cutting and shaping. At first, it felt like a simple haircut, harmless and ordinary. But then she asked a question that made my pulse spike. "Do you want to try a temporary style? Maybe a little fun? Something more feminine?" I opened my mouth to decline, to say it wasn't necessary, that I wasn't here for that, but Emma's grin, encouraging and teasing, froze my protest. Without realizing it, I had nodded. That small decision, the wordless agreement, the silent surrender, marked the beginning of a transformation I couldn't have anticipated. As the stylist worked, brushing my hair, applying subtle colors, and shaping my look into something strikingly feminine, I felt an unfamiliar tension twist inside me. The sensation was electric, part fear, part exhilaration. I could see glimpses of myself in the mirror, a version I had never shown the world. My hands fidgeted in my lap, my mind racing with thoughts I couldn't fully articulate. Emma's approving hums and gentle nudges made my heart beat faster. She seemed proud, almost possessive, as if claiming not just the moment, but the new identity emerging before her eyes. The line between Alex and this version of me, this feminine, confident reflection, blurred with every brushstroke, every careful curl, every flick of lipstick applied by the stylist who seemed to understand the thrill and the risk all at once. By the time the stylist stepped back, her eyes twinkling with satisfaction, I barely recognized myself. The reflection staring back was both me and not me, a mixture of vulnerability, excitement, and apprehension. Emma reached out, touching my shoulder.
See?
You look amazing. Don't you feel amazing? I nodded, speechless. And that was when I realized, deep in my bones, that nothing would ever be the same. That salon mistake, Emma's playful insistence, the stylist's gentle encouragement, had unlocked something I hadn't known I needed, and it had changed not just my appearance, but the very way I felt about myself. I left the salon that day feeling both exhilarated and terrified. Alex was still in me, but so was someone new, someone Emma had seen before I had. And I couldn't shake the uneasy excitement, the knowledge that this small twist of fate was just the beginning. The ride home from the salon was quiet. Emma hummed along to a playlist of upbeat pop songs, clearly satisfied with her own look, while I stared out the window, fingers nervously drumming against my lap. My reflection in the glass caught my eye. Long, silky hair, carefully styled curls framing my face, and subtle touches of makeup, blush, eyeliner, and a soft pink lipstick that made my lips look fuller than I had imagined. It felt wrong, yet exhilarating. As we reached our apartment, I felt a knot of dread twist in my stomach. How would I act around my coworkers tomorrow? Would anyone notice? But deeper than that, a tiny, rebellious part of me, a part I'd long suppressed, wanted to keep this new version of myself alive, even if it meant walking a tightrope of secrecy. Emma, sensing my hesitation, grinned. You should try some of my outfits tonight, she suggested, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Just for fun. I promise it'll be hilarious. I hesitated, heart pounding. Her idea wasn't exactly harmless. It was a challenge. A test. But curiosity overrode caution. Okay, just for a little while, I murmured, already imagining the feel of soft fabrics and delicate heels. Back in our apartment, Emma led me to her wardrobe. Dresses of all styles and colors hung neatly, a rainbow of temptation. She picked a pastel pink mini dress with lace trim and held it out to me. Try this one. Trust me, you'll look adorable. My stomach twisted. The dress was undeniably feminine, and the thought of wearing it, even alone in the apartment, sent waves of both excitement and anxiety through me. But I slipped it on, feeling the fabric hug my frame in ways my t-shirt and jeans never had. It was soft, light, and alarmingly revealing. My reflection in the full-length mirror made me gasp. I looked different. Vulnerable, yes, but also strangely empowered. Emma clapped her hands. You look amazing. And those heels, she added, presenting a pair of strappy pink stilettos, will complete the look. The heels were intimidating. I had never worn anything like them, but the challenge drew me in. I slipped them on and teetered slightly, arms out for balance. The sound of the heels clicking against the wooden floor was intoxicating. My reflection now seemed like a stranger, an alluring, confident stranger who could move gracefully, command attention, and, somehow, hide the nervousness I felt deep down. Emma, ever the playful instigator, handed me a small makeup kit. You're not done yet, she teased. Let's finish the look. I sat down and hesitantly began applying more makeup, guided by her suggestions. Every brushstroke, every dab of color, felt like stepping further into a world I had never fully inhabited. My initial apprehension began to morph into a thrilling vulnerability. I looked at myself again, and it felt as though I was seeing a different Alex, a version of myself I had longed to explore but had never dared. Yet, beneath the excitement, a quiet fear simmered. What if someone saw me like this? What if Emma told someone? The thought of losing control over my secret made my chest tighten. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just for fun, but the truth was, the thrill and the terror were inseparable. The hours passed quickly. Emma took photos, teasing and laughing as I posed awkwardly at first, then with more confidence. Every click of the camera reinforced the transformation. I felt myself slipping further from the Alex everyone knew and stepping into someone else entirely, a feminine, delicate, and undeniably bold version of myself. Finally, Emma sat back, satisfied. "You're ready," she said with a smirk. "Ready for what, exactly?" I asked nervously. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Ready to see just how far you can go. Tonight, you live as me, as my little experiment." My heart raced. The words were playful, but the implications hit me harder than I expected. Living as Emma's little experiment meant crossing a boundary I hadn't dared to explore fully. Yet, despite my anxiety, a deep part of me yearned to take the step. The suspense of the unknown, the thrill of living on the edge of my secret, and the intoxicating transformation consumed me. I felt both exhilarated and terrified. I was alone in the apartment, yet fully exposed to a new identity, vulnerable, feminine, and undeniably visible in a way I had never experienced. As the evening stretched on, I practiced walking in the heels, experimenting with poses, and adjusting my posture. Each movement, each step, reminded me how delicate this dual life could be. I was learning quickly that the thrill of transformation came hand in hand with the fear of discovery. By the time Emma called it a night, I felt exhausted and alive in equal measure. The mirror reflected a fully transformed version of me, someone I could hardly recognize, yet felt intimately connected to. I realized that this was only the beginning. The night ended with a mix of adrenaline and apprehension. I crawled into bed, still in part of the outfit, staring at the ceiling. I couldn't shake the feeling that the events of the day were not just a one-time thrill. They were a doorway into something bigger, deeper, and far more suspenseful than I had ever imagined. The next day promised new challenges, new transformations, and the ever-present risk of being caught. The next day was worse than I had imagined. Every step I took in Emma's borrowed heels felt like walking a tightrope, and every glance in the office mirror reminded me of how exposed I was. My co-workers didn't suspect a thing, yet, but the fear of discovery gnawed at me, a constant undercurrent beneath every interaction. Emma had insisted I keep the outfit on until she returned, her challenge ringing in my ears like a taunt. I tried to focus on work, typing reports and answering emails, but every sound, the creak of the floorboards, the buzz of the printer, made me flinch. I felt hyper-aware of my feminine movements, the sway of my hips, the careful placement of my hands, even the subtle curve of my posture. At lunch, I ducked into the restroom, trembling slightly as I looked at my reflection. The makeup I'd applied yesterday had settled perfectly, and my hair framed my face in soft waves. I barely recognized myself. My mind raced. What if someone saw me leaving the office tonight? What if Emma decided to push the challenge further? I swallowed, my throat dry, and tried to steady my nerves. Returning to my desk, I almost tripped over my heels. My heart raced, and for a brief moment, I considered slipping back into my regular clothes in the bathroom. But then I remembered Emma's mischievous grin and the thrill I had felt in the mirror the night before. No. I couldn't back down. By mid-afternoon, tension began to mount. A client unexpectedly arrived, requesting a last-minute meeting. My manager, oblivious to my situation, called me into the conference room. I felt a surge of panic, but I forced a composed smile. My voice sounded different to my own ears, softer, slightly higher, but not unnatural. The client complimented my appearance, joking that I looked particularly stylish today. My stomach lurched. I laughed nervously, feeling the weight of Emma's challenge pressing down on me. Every compliment, Every casual glance felt like walking on a razor's edge. I couldn't afford a misstep, not just for my secret, but for the fragile confidence I had built over the past 24 hours. After the client left, I returned to my desk, only to find a small package sitting there. No note. My hands shook as I picked it up, feeling the familiar thrill of curiosity and dread. I tore it open carefully, revealing a pair of delicate silk stockings and another dress, this one darker, more daring than yesterday's pastel. A shiver ran down my spine. Emma's handwriting scrawled across the enclosed card. Ready for round 2? Don't disappoint me. My mind raced. The challenge wasn't over. It had only escalated. Panic and excitement collided, making it hard to think clearly. I glanced around the office. No one seemed to notice, yet I felt like everyone could see through me, could detect the dual life I was living. Returning home that evening, I tried to mentally prepare for what Emma had in store. I slipped the dark dress on, feeling the cool fabric cling to my skin. The stockings followed, hugging my legs like a second skin. I completed the look with makeup, carefully accentuating my features without going overboard. Emma watched, smiling, as I adjusted my outfit in front of the mirror.
Perfect, she said.
Now, let's see if you can handle the next test. The apartment doorbell rang and my heart leapt. I froze. Who could it be at this hour? Emma left the room, and I tiptoed toward the door, high heels clicking softly against the floor. Peering through the peephole, I saw a delivery man holding a package. I exhaled slowly, relieved. But the suspense didn't end there. As I reached for the door, I felt a sudden snap. My heel caught on the edge of the rug and I stumbled, teetering dangerously. My reflection in the hall mirror showed the vulnerable figure I had become, graceful yet precariously balanced, feminine yet exposed. I caught myself just in time, heart pounding. The delivery man handed me the package with a polite nod, and I retreated to the living room, hands trembling. The door clicked shut behind me, and I sank onto the couch, realizing just how fragile my new identity felt. Emma reappeared, holding a camera. "Smile," she said, snapping photos of me. My breath caught. Each flash illuminated the tension, the thrill, the fear etched on my face. I was caught between two worlds, the Alex everyone knew, and the feminine version Emma had unleashed. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. A message from my coworker popped up on the screen. "Hey, saw your photo online, are you okay?" Panic surged through me. How had my secret leaked? Was this a trap? My hands shook as I typed back a hurried response, trying to cover my tracks. Emma leaned over my shoulder, whispering with a sly smile, "See? The thrill is real. Now let's push it even further." The night stretched on, each moment intensifying the suspense. Every sound, every knock, every message threatened to reveal the secret I was barely managing to control. The challenge had become a test of courage, endurance, and secrecy. By the end of the evening, I collapsed in front of the mirror, exhausted and exhilarated. I looked at my reflection, the transformed Alex, delicate yet daring, feminine yet strong. The night had pushed me to my limits, but it had also shown me the depth of my own resilience. Emma smiled, sensing my mixed emotions. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "we see how far you can really go." And just like that, the suspense hung in the air, unresolved and tantalizing. My secret was still safe for now, but I knew that the next challenge would bring even higher stakes, testing not only my identity, but my courage, my composure, and my control over the dual life Emma had forced me to live. The next morning, I woke to the sunlight spilling across the living room floor, a reminder that the previous night's tension hadn't disappeared. Emma was already up, humming softly as she prepared breakfast. The sight of her calm, casual demeanor contrasted sharply with a storm of anxiety still swirling inside me. "Morning," she said cheerfully, sliding a cup of coffee toward me. "Ready for today's little adventure?" My stomach twisted.
Adventure?
That was Emma speak for another layer of humiliation, thrill, and transformation. I nodded silently, trying to mask the fear that tightened my chest. She smiled, seemingly reading my mind.
Good.
You'll need all your focus. I glanced at the package on the table, identical in shape to the one from yesterday. Emma gestured for me to open it. Inside was a new outfit, a shimmering cocktail dress, tight and daring, paired with sky-high stilettos that made my legs look impossibly long. My heart sank. These weren't just clothes. They were a test, designed to push me beyond comfort and control. As I changed, I felt the familiar rush of vulnerability mixed with excitement. The dress clung to every contour, the heels forced me to walk delicately, and the makeup Emma had insisted I perfect yesterday now glimmered under the morning light. My reflection was intoxicating and terrifying. I barely recognized the fragile, feminine version of myself staring back. Emma circled me like a predator, inspecting her work.
Perfect.
Now, the real test begins. I followed her instructions as she led me out the apartment. The plan? A brief outing to a nearby cafe, crowded with people and eyes that could easily detect my dual identity. Every step was nerve-wracking. My heels clicked against the pavement, echoing in my ears. Every passerby felt like a judge. Inside the cafe, I tried to act natural, but Emma was merciless. She insisted I sit with perfect posture, sip my latte delicately, and smile at strangers when they glanced my way. Panic and exhilaration intertwined. I felt exposed, yet there was an undeniable thrill in the power of transformation, knowing I could command attention while hiding the truth beneath layers of fabric, makeup, and carefully crafted demeanor. Then it happened. A familiar voice called my name from across the room. My coworker, Alex, spotted me and waved enthusiastically. My heart leapt. If Alex recognized me, everything would unravel. I froze, caught between a friendly greeting and the desperate need to preserve my secret. Emma squeezed my hand under the table. "Don't panic," she whispered. "You've got this." I forced a smile, nodding politely, all while internally screaming. My coworker approached, clearly oblivious to my internal crisis. "Hey, didn't expect to see you here, looking different," he said, raising an eyebrow. Just trying something new," I stammered, voice trembling. My legs shook beneath the table, the stilettos now feeling like instruments of torture rather than elegance. Alex chuckled. "Well, you look amazing, honestly." My face flushed, complimented, but on edge. I struggled to respond naturally. Every word felt like a tightrope act, every gesture amplified by the fear of exposure. After what felt like an eternity, Alex excused himself, leaving me drained and exhilarated. Emma grinned triumphantly.
"See?
You're handling it beautifully." The tension ratcheted further when we returned home. Emma had prepared another obstacle, a video call with her friend group, insisting I appear fully dressed and feminine. The thought of my voice, my appearance, and my secret being scrutinized by multiple people sent chills down my spine. As the call connected, Emma guided me through posture, gestures, and conversation. I spoke softly, carefully modulating my tone, trying to sound natural. Every laugh, every nod, every smile carried the weight of secrecy. I could feel the duality of my existence, the Alex everyone knew and the transformed persona Emma demanded. Halfway through the call, my phone buzzed, a text from my mother, asking why she hadn't seen me at lunch. Panic surged. I froze, unsure how to respond without raising suspicion. Emma noticed my distress and whispered, "Quick, reply with something harmless." My trembling fingers typed a vague excuse, and the crisis passed, but the fear lingered. By evening, the day's challenges had taken their toll. My reflection in the mirror revealed the toll: slightly weary eyes, tense shoulders, but a posture I had never imagined I could maintain under such pressure. Emma approached, hands on my shoulders. "You've done incredibly well. Tomorrow we take it even further." I sank onto the couch, torn between relief and dread. The day had tested my courage, composure, and adaptability. I had survived the outing, the compliments, the scrutiny, and the unexpected threats, but the question lingered. How much longer could I maintain this delicate balance before the duality of my life collapsed? The suspense hung thick in the air. Emma's challenges were far from over, and every moment pushed me deeper into a world where fear, excitement, and vulnerability intertwined. I realized that my life had irrevocably changed, and the coming days promised even more intense tests of identity, secrecy, and resilience. The next morning, I awoke to an eerie quiet. Emma had left a note on the dresser. "Big day. Don't disappoint." My stomach churned. Whatever she had planned, I knew it would push me further than ever before. I opened the wardrobe she had insisted I organize yesterday, only to find a new ensemble laid out, a satin mini dress, delicate lace gloves, and the highest heels I had ever attempted. My hands shook as I touched the fabric. This wasn't just clothing, it was a test of endurance, poise, and secrecy. Emma appeared suddenly, smiling but eyes sharp. "Today you'll meet my friends," she said, voice like a whip. "You must charm them completely." Panic clawed at me. Meeting Emma's friends while fully transformed meant navigating conversation, body language, and scrutiny under the microscope of their attention. Every misstep could reveal my secret, undoing everything. As I dressed, I felt the familiar cocktail of fear and thrill. The satin clung to my body, the gloves made my hands feel foreign, and the heels forced every step to be deliberate. My reflection was almost unrecognizable. I could see both myself and the persona Emma demanded in that mirror, the delicate line between them blurring with every breath. Emma led me to the car. The drive was tense. She chatted casually about her friends, but I could barely focus on her words. My mind raced with scenarios. What if someone noticed my voice? My mannerisms? My awkwardness under scrutiny? When we arrived at the cafe, the group was already seated. Emma introduced me, and my heart pounded. The friends smiled politely, chatting amongst themselves, but I felt their eyes on me, measuring, judging. My throat went dry, my hands trembled, and I realized just how vulnerable I truly was. Emma leaned close. "Remember what we practiced," she whispered. "Confidence, charm, and secrecy." I forced a smile, nodded, and attempted to participate in conversation. Every laugh, every tilt of the head, every gesture felt rehearsed, but I had no choice. The pressure built as they asked personal questions, complimented my appearance, and teased playfully. I had to respond convincingly, balancing authenticity with the constructed persona. Then, a sudden interruption. Emma's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her expression tightening. "Stay calm," she murmured. My heart skipped a beat. The call was from Alex, my coworker from yesterday. Panic surged. If he arrived unexpectedly, he could recognize me. I excused myself, trying to maintain composure, while Emma answered the phone outside. Seconds felt like hours. I adjusted my gloves nervously, wishing the earth would swallow me whole. Emma returned, face unreadable. "He's coming here. Soon," she said casually, though I could see the tension in her eyes. My stomach dropped. Exposure loomed. The next hour was a blur of conversation, laughter, and forced elegance. Every glance toward the entrance made my heart pound. My legs ached in the heels. My voice felt unnatural, but I couldn't falter.
Not now.
Not when everything I had built was at stake. Finally, the door opened. Alex walked in, scanning the cafe. My heart stopped. He paused, eyes widening slightly, as if recognizing something familiar. I froze, glued to my chair, praying my disguise and Emma's coaching would hold. Emma squeezed my hand subtly, signaling me to stay calm. Alex smiled at her, chatting briefly, then turned his gaze toward me. The recognition in his eyes grew, a flicker of confusion and curiosity. My pulse raced. Had I been discovered? Emma leaned in, whispering, "Relax. You're doing fine." I forced another smile, trembling slightly, but meeting Alex's gaze as naturally as I could. Every second stretched endlessly, a tightrope walk over a pit of potential disaster. My dual identity felt fragile, a delicate house of cards waiting to collapse. As the visit ended, Emma's friends praised my appearance and demeanor. Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. The tension hadn't lifted. It had only grown. Alex's lingering gaze haunted me, and I knew the stakes were higher than ever. Returning home, I collapsed on the couch, exhausted. Emma smiled down at me. Tomorrow, it only gets more intense. I realized then that my life had shifted irrevocably. Every step, every word, every choice now carried the weight of secrecy and transformation. The thrill, the fear, and the vulnerability were intertwined, and there was no turning back. The following day began with the same mix of dread and anticipation that had become my constant companion. Emma had already left a note on the kitchen counter. You know what's expected today. Don't fail me. My hands shook as I read it. The stakes felt higher than ever, and I knew this would push me to my limits. I opened the wardrobe and froze. Today's outfit was far more daring, a fitted cocktail dress that clung to every curve, paired with stilettos that made walking feel like a challenge on a tightrope. The dress shimmered under the light, but all I could see was the potential for humiliation if I stumbled. Emma appeared from the bedroom, her expression a mixture of amusement and command. "Time for your final test," she said, her voice calm but authoritative. "You'll be attending the charity gala tonight. I'll be there, but you'll have to navigate this on your own at times. Remember, grace, charm, secrecy." My stomach churned. The idea of entering a crowded event as a fully transformed version of myself was terrifying. Every glance, every whisper could expose me. I swallowed hard and nodded. There was no turning back.